Welcome to Coffee and Conversation. I'm your host, Karim Rafa, and I'm joined today with Dhiraj Mukherjee, the co-founder of Shazam and now a tech for good investor. Dhiraj, welcome on air.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the invitation.
It's great to have you on air, and it's awesome to be talking to you, the co-founder of Shazam. We've heard so many good things. We've heard from the humble and also weird beginnings of the app that you built back in the day. I was hoping you could kind of walk us through yourself, your profile, and what you've built.
I was doing my MBA at Stanford Business School from 95 to 97. I'm showing my age here already. So I just happened to be in Silicon Valley when the internet boom was starting up. And it was a time of, crazy dreamers, and everyone wanted to be an entrepreneur and, had these big ideas about building these new digital businesses. A good friend of mine called Chris Barton, he was at Berkeley Business School at the time. And we'd go out and have a few drinks and say, hey, we should be entrepreneurs, and try to come up with ideas, most of which were just terrible. But, we'd hear music when we were out and about, and he didn't know what music it was, and he'd ask me, and I had no clue either. And so that's how Chris came up, actually, originally with the idea for Shazam.
Initially it was about like knowing what music was playing on the radio and being able to identify it if you knew what time and what radio station. And he thought, what would be better than that? What would be better is if you could use your mobile phone to identify any song anywhere you are in a bar, or a club, or a cafe.
That would be a winner compared to this radio identification idea. Where would we find the technology? I mean, the second problem was, where would we find all this music that we wanted to identify? The third was, how are we going to make money? It's all very well to identify music. So there was a lot of problems with this initial idea.
It's pretty crazy, and I think a lot of our viewers probably don't know this, because I didn't know this until recently, showing my age, that when Shazam first came out, you actually had to call a phone number, hold your phone to the speaker or the radio that was playing, and then you'd receive a text message if the song was identified at a later stage. Is that right?
That's right. It's hard to imagine nowadays that, smartphones only came about 7 years after we launched Shazam. So back in the day, this was in '99 when we were, brainstorming ideas. It was a simple old Nokia phone which you could dial a number. And we came up with a 4-digit short code, which was 2580, which was straight down the middle of the mobile. You hold your phone to the air, it would record for 15 seconds. The call would hang up, and you get a text message with the name of the song and the artist. So that was the original service. So it was only when the iPhone launched in 2007 and the App Store appeared in 2008 that Shazam became an app, and it became a much better user experience than those early days.
I really see that, and I think you've built something great, and I'd like to draw parallels with our current decade per se. What you did at the time was built an application that was in some ways riding the wave of a changing infrastructure. So you built it for, say, dumb phones at the time, or feature phones. But I think you knew in some way that, like you said, it was the boom of the internet. Something was coming, and internet was going to be portable. And something like the iPhone, even in the 90s, we knew was going to happen. How do you see something similar transcending, so to speak, into this decade? What is your advice for an entrepreneur, and which spaces do you think are worth paying attention to?
So you're right. We were driven by this idea that, the world was gradually going more mobile. Back in the day, I don't know if you can imagine, but the mobile phone was a new gadget. People were like, oh, this is cool. It wasn't anywhere near ubiquitous as it is today. It actually took until 2007, 2008 before the generation of mobiles that we are used to today actually were in the hands of consumers. And I completely agree. That was a massive change for Shazam, having found the right platform to then grow. So my advice to entrepreneurs today, I guess, would be, we're at an inflection point. So there's new opportunities which come from crises as well. And I think having that survivor mentality really helps, because
I think there's all kinds of digital opportunities which open up for more traditional businesses, or global opportunities which are now there for the taking for more previously local businesses. And that's something which,
when I was at Shazam, we went around country by country doing individual deals, because there were mobile operators in each country who had different terms and integration needs. Once the iPhone appeared, then we were, global sort of almost overnight. It was incredible. There's emerging technologies which suddenly are in the limelight. So a few years ago,
distributed ledger, for instance, I was very keen on, augmented reality. And then you get these kind of troughs where nothing seems to happen. So I would advise against
betting on a particular technology or platform or trend or way, but more to build a durable business which can take advantage of the opportunities as they come along and then become mainstream. And that's the key. Often, it can be a very quick shift, but to stay nimble, to see, depending on how things play out in the real world.
So I know that you mentor a number of early stage startups, and you're always very helpful in that sense. But I'm wondering, when it comes to, I guess, the bidding entrepreneur, people that are just like you were, sitting in a bar and assessing ideas. Do you think that finding a problem with a worthwhile solution to build is still the way to go? Because we've seen so many startups that raise crazy valuations, and it seems to be more of a valuation cruise of raising capital for a problem and having a business that actually still burns through cash but somehow still gets funding. But do you think that finding a solution is still the way to go, or is it developing a feature, same as, I guess, AR, VR in that sense?
The trade-off is between being innovative and then being too early. And in our case, I think we went about it, arguably all wrong, which is we came up with an idea, then tried to invent the technology, then worked out if there was a business, and then developed a side business just so we could fund the first business, which was not working that well. Raised $150 million along the way so we could keep the lights on, and then took about 20 years from start to finish. So it's definitely not the textbook approach.
So the perfect business basically has a segment of customers who have a deep need which they can't properly express. And the idea takes aim at that and produces a service or product where the customer says, thank goodness you're here, because that you're what I've been looking for, but I couldn't talk about it, and I'm willing to pay a large amount of money to buy it right now.
Now, those ideal businesses don't really exist, so it's very difficult to nail it. So there's a couple of ways to do this. One is to iterate and pivot until that sweet spot is found, or to actually to innovate and then educate the market over a period of time. And both those approaches need capital and time. So my advice would be to stay in the game, to be in the market, and to be learning as quickly as possible from the product or service. And the best form of learning, in my opinion, is anyone paying for it, or is anyone actually engaging, which in the jargon is called traction. Because if your clients are not, or users are not, then you're just living in a dream world, and that'll usually end in bankruptcy. So I wish I could give a better answer, but it's not an easy game to play.
It's fair. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are stuck on the idea of build it and they will come. But I think that, based on what you said, it's very much, where are they going, and let's put something there first.
It's hard when you're out there trying to sell and trying to educate a market, and then coming up against all the obstacles where people say, do you have 10 case studies? Can you show me the ROI if I make this investment? And, we've all been there. And that's why I feel a lot of empathy with
entrepreneurs, because it's hard work, but there's no shortcut. So whether it's in Asia, or whether it's in Europe, or whether it's in North America, we all go through it as entrepreneurs.
Dhiraj, I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for coming on air.
Absolute pleasure for me. Thank you so much, Karim. Really appreciate it.
And to our viewers, this was Coffee and Conversation. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.